Dann würde ich sagen,
All right, then let's get started with our presentation. We are going to talk about epic product descriptions. So what is this actually about? You will tell us a little bit more about this soon. So what strategy is behind this concept? You will going to talk about this today. We can learn a lot, and you will give us a lot of ideas and inspiration. And that's also very insightful for us because you have so great ideas, and you know that texts are not just words that are linked together, but it's much more than that. Yes, exactly. Okay, so Saim is our speaker here today. He's our guest and speaker. So Saim, the floor is yours. Thank you, Heike. Please be so kind and share the screen. Yeah, you have to be so kind to share the screen today for technical reasons. I'm here at the K5 conference. It's really nice that this is also a conference on AI. It's not only about AI, it's a very great event with many interesting stakeholders here. So I can only recommend this to you. If you have the chance to go to this conference tomorrow, do so. I can only recommend it to you. So then let's get started with the presentation. That works perfectly. All right, smart e-commerce copy. We said that our customers get increasingly smart. So the content has also to be very smart. So epic product description is a term that really represents this issue. It's about smart and highly developed content. It's not just about writing a couple of lines and just some random texts. No, our customers are very smart and they have precise buzzwords that they use and search. So that's why we need smart descriptions to cover the buzzwords, for instance. And we also have to take into consideration that our customers also have a buying decision. So they look at different channels and platforms, and that's why we have to really take this into consideration when writing our product description. So we have a very long buying process, and that's why we have to take into account all this information. Okay, the next slide here. We need great content that is really difficult to create manually, because when writing it manually, it's expensive and it's also very prone to errors. And what does that mean? This example shows that perfectly. We have one text here on the left-hand side on an LG TV, and on the right-hand side, we have the very same TV, but a different product description here. Billiger.de here is one of our customers, the customers of AX, and they have a different strategy and a different approach to product descriptions. And what you can see here is a different structure, a different formatting. We have these green and bright red areas where you have the advantages and disadvantages of a product. That's really important for the customer when they want to compare the product. But we also see that we have different headings and different paragraphs that really structure the text so that the customer can really have the information at a glance. So it's not about really having an epic description, but it's about having the core content at a glance. And we want to have a different approach, and we have an idea that we want to present to you today. All right. So the first step is the following. You have the individual paragraph here, and this paragraph should then be made available as an extended content. Here on the right-hand side, you see how we processed this information. Here you can see the different aspects that are very important to us. At the top, you have the meta title and the description. And then you can see a very brief summary that summarizes the main features of the product. This doesn't have to be only about a text. It can also be like an enumeration, a list, bullet points. And then we have the USPs here, the unique selling points here that are here at the top. It's important to have the important information at the beginning. And it's important that the customer can see all the main information just at a glance. Then we have the CTA here. And we can also work with FAQs here. This is what you can see here on the slide as well. And you can also include further media here. That's what billiger.de did. And what we can see is that it is adapted to the corresponding channel. Here it's about the website, but of course customers also search for products on Amazon or on other marketplaces, and of course you can adapt your product description to the corresponding channel. You start with a product logo, and then you can continue with different features of the product. You can mention everything and adapt it to the corresponding channel. All right, let's move on to the next slide. We have here our customers that have epic product descriptions already. They have these extended product description, and you might know these brands already because you have watched our meetups or just from other sources. You see that we have an increase of 20% as for organic visibility. And that is really fantastic. As for Cover World, for instance, we see an increase of 77% regarding their revenue. And this is due to the product description page. And at meetup, we have an increase of 57% as for their conversion rates. And we also saw that the visibility at Google was also increased with billiger.de, for instance. So the general organic search has improved. And at Otto, for instance, you see that the arrow goes down, and we see that the situation is as follows. They have a huge amount of, it's the other way around. They have a declining return rate, and they also could save costs as they have fewer costs they have to spend on customer service, as they have very good product descriptions. So all these ideas and information show that with epic product descriptions, you can truly save costs. And that's what we can measure and display in figures here. All right, let's move on then. So the effect is really clear. We can skip this here. Okay. So what does it mean? How do we get there? How do we get an epic product description? This is an overview slide here, and we will look at the different points here in greater detail afterwards. So we have 6 or 7 steps that we are going to look at now. So we will have a great information here for you and look at all the different steps that are necessary to get epic product descriptions. So let's start with the first point. Okay. So we accompanied our customers from these paragraphs to these fantastic product descriptions, but there are many steps in between. So this is not just one big step, but a process that has to be gone through. So some steps can be taken first, and some other steps have to be taken then gradually. But what is great is that you can update the information continuously. So you can do some steps first today, start the process, you can publish the text, and then after a few days, you can continue with this process. And this is how you develop your content step by step. And that's a working process that we recommend to our customers. It is not about taking one step now and do everything now and then it's done. No, it's about working continuously on having really outstanding descriptions for your customers. And that's really important. That is about a continuous process. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. The first step. What's the first step? the text strategy, how to convince your customer. You have to have product-focused information, to have features that you enumerate and describe your products. You have to have information and data points and comparisons. That sounds really simple, but sometimes you don't add this information to your text. For instance, descriptions of certificates. Button, what does GOT means for a cotton? So you have to really describe the features that you offer and to implement it in your text. But you also have to underline the features that you sometimes don't mention. What else can you add? And what definitions do you need? What's interesting for your customer? Then the next point is SEO requirements. That's what we are going to look at in the structure later on as well. Sometimes you focus on certain aspects, colors, patterns, and other criteria. But yeah, so you implement this in the meta description, in the title, and in the heading. But that's that. You only focus on one topic as for SEO. That's right. But if there are also other possibilities to present a t-shirt, for instance. A t-shirt can be available in 62 colors, but it can be also available in different sizes, in oversize, for instance. So recommend our customers to really think about how to structure a product description or a website. And together with our customers, we work on their website structure and so on. So of course, there are also counter arguments here, but one thing is really clear. Think about your SEO requirements. What are the keywords? What are the intentions of your customers? And what do you have to do to really address your customers' needs? Okay, focusing on your target group. That's something that is on everyone's lips, right? And it would be too much for the session here today, but of course it has to be mentioned here. You have to focus on your target group, and this is important when choosing your keywords. Just to have the right buzzwords and keywords, the right content, that's important. To have the right language, the linguistic style, that's important. Then the context is also really important, focusing on seasons and tendencies, trends. Personalization is vital. You really have to update your product description time and again. A pen, for instance, can be there for frying fish or chicken, but it can also be there to prepare your winter dessert, for instance, or an Austrian pancake dessert or something like this. So it's important to have a look at the season and to adapt your product descriptions accordingly. It's about telling a story here and to really focus on what is important for the customer. And next point is customer retention, addressing your customers directly and emotionally. That's vital. I just recently talked to Frank Feuner from Internet Stores, and we talked about that repairing a vehicle or a bicycle is important, and you have to have a set for it. But if you work on a racing vehicle, it's different. So a racing bike. So it's about whom you want to address. Is it about a mountain bike, just a bicycle for leisure activities? So it's about what you need your product for. So it's really important to really first observe what's important for your customer before you start writing your text. So let's have a look at the next slide. Text structure and text design. What is your product description for? Is it for a screen? Is it for a mobile screen or a desktop screen? Yes, don't laugh about it. Some customers really print the product description. So really have a look first how your product description looks on a printed paper and what it looks like on a just typical laptop screen. So that's really important. Then also have a look at how your product descriptions looks on a PDF site, because some people just share your product description and send it to friends in a PDF version. And it's also vital to have subheadings that give your customer an introduction of what is going to be described in the text. So check your mobile version, the text heading, and also other aspects. So it's important. Many things are automized nowadays, but be careful here. Take the time and take a closer look at the different publishing versions here. And text variations, that's also important to have different versions for the different platforms. It's not only about readability, but also about the purpose here. Sometimes you can add a link here or to adapt the amount of pictures that you want to have in your description. For instance, on a mobile phone, you might not want to have that many pictures because otherwise the customer only focuses on the image, on the pictures and not on the text. So check first how your text looks on the corresponding screen. So it has to be fantastic on different marketplaces and on different screens. Maybe you just notice, you have to shorten the second paragraph, for instance, or change the structure of the image or whatever. Make sure that you are checking all these points first before you publish your texts. All these things have to be considered, and that's also really important to structure the text. It can also increase incentives when scrolling down the site. Okay, the next slide. Content and linguistic adaptations. The first point is to have the most important information first. What's most important? Yes, these selling points, the USPs. That's most important because these points really are decisive when customers make their decision to buy a product or not. It's important here to focus on bullet point structures because this is also really important for Google because Google knows the most important information comes first. If you sell a t-shirt for men in different sizes, then you really have to focus on the sizes and that your product is available in oversizes and plus sizes. And that's how your customers can really make a swift decision to purchase your product. And this is really important to underline your USPs. And there are also different text forms that you can integrate in your product description. FAQs, for instance, there's a great webinar on it. And it's about how to create FAQs with AX Semantics. Of course, it's a bit difficult to write FAQs, especially manually, but if you do it in an automated manner, it's really simple. So it's a great tip that I can give you. Please take the time and focus on FAQs. Look at how you can implement them into your product descriptions. This is really important for your customers and it can swiftly help them. And this is also a means of improving visibility at Google. Then you can also include captions and to give comparisons and tables and also noteworthy information on your product or maybe noteworthy information on the brand, social commitments, social projects, the year of the foundation of the company, maybe what your company stands for. This is all information that you can include in the product description, and this is information that can really influence the purchasing decision. The integration of further text. You can integrate also text from the manufacturer, for instance, or give instructions in general. You can add this information, and we recommend it if your texts in general are very brief and if not enough structured information is available to generate text. In this situation, you can also add informational text here and text from the manufacturer. Yes, okay. Unfortunately, then you cannot translate the text then with AX Semantics because the integrated text then can't be translated, but you have to translate it with a different tool or just write it in the foreign language on the product description page. Then you have different product categories, and it's important to have detailed product descriptions here. And that's vital to add links here. And the links are also vital for Google to increase your visibility. That's definitely essential when it comes to SEO and also important for the customer in general. What does it mean? You don't want to just link from one product to another, because if you have taken a look at this product, you should also look at this product. No, you don't want this, but you could have one more general page and link a more detailed page here and can say, okay, this product could be purchased together with another product instead of this product. So it's about selling more than giving different alternatives. So it's important to use this funnel here to add a product, but not to replace one. All right, your adaptability of your text. The adaptability is vital. It's about updating your text frequently. So to have up-to-date texts is important for Google, but it's also important to your customer. If you have seasonal texts or texts adapted to the season, you really can address the customer's mood. In summer, you want to have text for summer products. You can focus on sports events and also events that take place in a certain month or in a certain season. So it's vital to focus on this and to address the seasonal aspect as well. For sports clothes, for instance, it's important to point at sports events, at tournaments and other aspects. And with automation, you can do this. You can update your texts and have up-to-date texts all the time. Just imagine you are really a sports enthusiast. You really want to have this nod to these sporting events. That's important, and you can really underline the event and link it to your product. This really gives your customer the feeling that this is a really top-notch product description that you have. Number of containers and triggers, number of processable data fields, and the source. That's important. You have to buy the data sources as well. I'd like to keep it short here, but it's important that you have a table, a lookup table in the system where you have all the different sporting events, the tournaments in the table, where you maintain all the data. So if you want to implement it in your product description, you have to structure it first. That's clear. Let's move on then. How important are detailed product pages? We had a survey here some time ago about how your work is perceived, the work of a team and of an individual person. And they said, okay, our work, the work as copy editors, is perceived as something that really boosts revenue. So writing content is really something that has a great potential that we can tap into. And we saw some great figures earlier, where we showed that it can really be beneficial to your company. So you really have to have full coverage here. This is what we want to achieve. No, it's not that we say, okay, no, let's not have a detailed product page. No, we should not strive for that. We should have detailed product pages for as many products as possible. Then we should also implement strategic content goals. Sometimes the goals refer to KPIs, but in most situations, these goals are reasonable goals. It's not just a KPI issue, but it's more about having clear strategies and goals, a comprehensive, up-to-date product description for a certain product. Everyone wants to achieve that, and this is also really important to increase your revenue. Of course, yes, you have costs here, but it's also about reducing costs while at the same time increasing your revenue. And what we can see is that we have really reached the point where we focus on strategic goals within a company that also refer to product descriptions. So then we also have content teams that not only write product descriptions, but also blogs and also social media ads and so on. So they really create links between their work. They look at the content and sometimes they borrow the content to really transfer and message. They use the text for email marketing, and sometimes they really create new texts for email marketing or adapt them or shorten them. So this is also what people do. And for that, for really addressing all the communication channels, it's also important to resort to automated content to facilitate your working life. And it's really easy to implement and really do your colleagues a favor here. Let's move on to integration. Technically speaking, how is the automated detailed product page integrated in the e-com company? It has improved over the last couple years. With the API that we provide, it's not a problem at all. But yes, there were some difficulties in the past, but these API connections have become better. And I remember that one of our first customers had a problem and we helped them with a CSV file where we had 1,999 text and article items and item numbers. So it was a lot of work. So we had to work with the CSV file. But now we are a step further. We're working with integration systems here to really assess also the effect of the text. With that, we can get feedback of the parameter of the text effect for the project. And in the past, people said it is detrimental when you add a pixel, everything gets slower. So the site, the landing page, for instance, is slower. But no, it's not a problem anymore. Of course, sometimes these are challenges for IT people, but we see that's absolutely worth it working with integration systems. So it's a new thing that we're working on. Of course, it's not running perfectly, but something that we are working on, and that's highly appreciated by our customers. Heike, so let's move on to the next slide. Copywriting processes. So what has changed? And where do we have to go? And what do we have to do to get epic content? First of all, it's about having a very simple workflow. We have different stakeholders that work on the platform, and you have to have certain rules, style guides, for instance, that are being used. And then you also need to have a content guide. It's also about how to address your customer, how to write the text for them with a people-centric approach, for instance. Then you also have a quality assurance process in place. You check the data, you check the texts, and do some quality assurance processes. And it's really important also to know how often your data and texts are being updated. And then it's important to look at the data first and check whether the data is still up to date for the corresponding situation. And this is all part of the quality assurance process. At Home24, there was a data team, and they changed the data structure in the PIM system, and they did not know that the team was using this data for the product description. So I think it's funny that they did not know that, but they added something, they changed something in the PIM system, and all the texts were then messed up because the PIM was changed. So it's important to really implement it in this process here and to make sure that quality is being ensured. All right, different competencies and different authorities. There are issues that we focus on, like SEO, copywriting, translators, also external translators. You don't have to have all these people in your team, but it's important, of course, to work with these people to really complete the copywriting process. And of course, you have to have clear requirements vis-a-vis your colleagues, especially as for data quality. You have to write down your requirements for them to also be able to provide all the information necessary for all the stakeholders involved. And it's important to write this down to really make this work professionally. So much for the integration in the processes. This is our overview slide that you saw in the beginning. This is the path to end up with an epic product description. We decided not to translate this into German because it's really epic. And the English description is absolutely fitting because it truly describes what we think about epic descriptions. Okay, the last point. As for the quantity, what structure is important for us? And people have different opinions on this. Let's have a look at the current situations. As for quantity, it's always about the decision whether to describe the amount. For instance, you have 62 colors, then you have each color has one description, or do you stay on the product level? It's about having a t-shirt from, let's say, Levi's for men, then the article number, and you have 16 different colors. So is it about the product level or about the colors, for instance? So some people say they want to have fewer pages to not overburden Google and to remain concise so that everyone can find the information and that Google can search the information and get a good ranking. I'm not entirely sure here. I have different results here that I've seen here. Some companies only focused on products, but not only the product as such, but it worked really great via the organic search because the content marketing was really outstanding. For example, for advisory texts and also information that is important for the product description. So they achieved a great ranking so that customers paid attention to the product. But sometimes I also saw the other example that customers focused on SKUs. So both is possible. You can write something about the SKUs, but you can also write about the product as such. In general, the text has to be really general. So you only have the product text, and you have to focus on the 16 colors, for instance, and you cannot have a look at all the different fantastic features that this product entails, because then you wouldn't follow your structure. So let's stick to the color example. And with the oversize t-shirt, let's say you have a oversized t-shirt in 16 colors. Then you'd write one text on the 16 colors, and then you'd mention somewhere that's available in plus sizes. So in your structure, you structure down to men's, women's, or kids. Then you go to shirts and t-shirts. Then you land at your product. And then you mention also, by the way, this t-shirt is also available in these and that colors and in this and that size. This will not really be successful as for the Google ranking, because the Google has to find this information first in the headline and in the text. So it's not about sticking to the structure here. You have to create your structure in accordance to this information. If you want to highlight the colors and say, okay, these colors are also available, these t-shirts in these colors are also available in plus sizes, this is also important, and this is what we are going to see in the future. So we focus on the customer perspective. It's about thinking about whether you really should focus on the SKUs, or if we should focus on the product as such. If you search for an oversized t-shirt, you will type in oversized t-shirt, but you will not type in, I want to have a t-shirt that's available in 16 colors, and then you look in the text and scroll down to see whether your t-shirt is available also in large sizes. So if you want to achieve a good ranking, if you want to address your customers and to get their attention, you have to focus on the right information. So the future approach is more focused on the customer. So yes, the product is available in oversizes, it is available in different colors, and there are different patterns, for instance. So this is something that has to come first. As for socks, for instance, you have the colors, but you also have business socks or tennis socks, or also different certificates for organic cotton. This is information that is important. That's something that your customers search for, because your customer has a search intent, and that's important for your customer. So that's why we have to look at all these four points. So this is a business socks, a pair of socks that is available in black, for instance, and it's made of organic cotton with a certificate, for instance. So yeah, so there's a long road ahead of us, because currently just a few people really focus on all these points to work. And it's vital to work closer with SEO teams to really structure your page. In the past, it was not possible to implement such structures when writing the text manually. But now we have the chance to do that with automated text descriptions and product descriptions. It's important and feasible because of automation. Okay, now we are at the end of this presentation. I'm looking forward to answer your questions now. So Heike, did you like my presentation? So yeah, I think the answer is clear. All right, yeah. Yes, in fact, this was a lot of information. You really covered a lot of topics that are important for epic product descriptions, topics and issues that are relevant here. So I wondered here whether, so you mentioned the text structure, you mentioned messages, and you also mentioned the shape and the formatting. But how do I really approach this issue? What's the first steps that I should take when I want to have an epic product description? So, okay, let's take a list. We have these 7 tips for you. Take the list, have a look at one point, and just start. What can I do tomorrow in the morning? For instance, work on your headings. Have some bold font to really highlight the main information, the core information of the product. It's just one step. So it's a continuous process. And if you change information, maybe it's not final. You can change it then afterwards if you don't like it anymore after some time. But yes, it's about doing the things that you can do on your own, technically speaking. Start with the process and then continue working on it. It's important to have a readable text that has information that is easily to process for your customer. Don't wait too long and for your decision to work on it. Just get started. That's really helpful. All right, yeah, that's a great tip. Let's start tomorrow or maybe even today. Yeah, start today. That's fantastic. Yeah, so you spoke also about the copywriting processes. You talked about the different workflows, and you also talked about the level of descriptions that are really effective. So yeah, we should really think about what we would like to convey, what's the message that we want to convey, what's our goal, and where do we get help here? Where do we find the right information and where do we get help, especially as for automated text descriptions? Okay, as for the text strategy, we can use all the text tips that we get on content marketing. So the difference is that we can scale it due to automation. An example that is really rather off-putting is the following. This morning, I was in an H&M store and I looked at the situation on site. We see that the recycling box and the communication there is really great in the store. You go there, people tell you how you can submit your clothes and how you can recycle them, and then you get a discount and a discount code, for instance, and it's really great in the store. And it all happens on site in the store and not online. But in the product description, we don't see any reference to it. You see it on the website, yes, there are details on it, and they describe the point system online, but all the efforts are not really shown in the product description. You can see it in the store. You see the information that they have a sales promotion a program, and you have this and that project, but this is not mentioned in the product description of the individual product. And this is not really beneficial. You could have this information in the product description. Let's say this is the cotton t-shirt and this is a cotton t-shirt, and then you can recycle the cotton later on. So it's a sustainable product. You should definitely mention this in the product description, and it should be mentioned there. So things that we know from content marketing can be implemented here, and this really shapes our strategy. So first thing is, let's communicate everything that we do in the product description. So this is the first sentence of your product description here. Yes, of course, we all are familiar with the internet, but you think that there is a linear process, but no, it is not the case. You just get to the website. Maybe you just start with a product description page, and you need this information there. You just don't always start with landing page. Of course, you do not have to mention everything that you do for the environment, for instance. You can just pick out one or two things that you do that really underlines how you really put an effort into saving the environment, and that's great. That's what your customer wants to know. You could also give your customer tips on how to save water, for instance, when washing the product. Let's say this t-shirt can be washed at a low temperature, for instance. This is environmentally friendly, and it shows that you are a sustainable company. This is information that you can provide your customer with in the product description. This is just one idea here. There's a lot of information that you can add, and it's just one tip that I'd like to give you. Place this information in the description, and it is great for the Google ranking in general because it fits the word cluster, and it's also important and helpful for your customer. And when it's helpful for your customer, it boosts your sales. And what this goes to show is that it's important to have this text competence. Having copywriting skills is vital because it's about knowing what questions you have to answer, what is helpful for your customer. This is important to know when writing the texts and when being in this copywriting process in general. Yes, that's true. Yes, sure. We automate text, but of course there's a human being in the loop because we need someone who really gives this process a thought. And that's the nice thing. Maybe you remember the presentation that was held by, what was his name? I'm sorry. This name just slipped my mind. But there was a woman here who talked about how great her job has become. Rilika was her name, yes. So she said that she does not have to write that many product descriptions anymore, no, but she can now focus on other tasks as well that are vital for her job. So now she focuses, for instance, on the general process, on the broader process, and this really has changed her job. It has made her job more exciting. She can now produce a lot of content and focus on what's actually vital for the general process and for the results. So maybe our tips can help you to really improve your work and facilitate your life and to increase your revenue. All right, so we have to now come to an end. So we don't have any further questions here in the chat. So if you don't have any further questions now, let's wrap up. So thank you very much, Saim, for taking the time, for sharing this information with us, for presenting your ideas and thoughts with us.